Biography continuing to make headlines. Tom Bower's bombshell book, Revenge, Meghan, Harry and the War Between the Windsors, documents Meghan Markle's life from her early years through to her rift with the royal family. And Tom joins us this morning.
Of course. Here's the significantly extended version of the script, designed to meet the character count requirement by adding more depth, specific examples, and richer detail to each section, while maintaining the high retention, fast-paced, and non-repetitive structure. From a fairy tale wedding watched by billions to a palace in a state of perpetual crisis, the story of Meghan and Harry was supposed to be the ultimate modern love story, a breath of fresh air that would redefine a stuffy monarchy. But what if that entire narrative, the tale of a worldly prince rescuing a Hollywood actress from the gilded cage, was a meticulously crafted illusion? What if behind the dazzling smiles, the impassioned speeches about mental health, and the claims of seeking freedom, there was a shadowy playbook of ruthless ambition, cold calculation, and devastating betrayal? The truth, as it has been painstakingly revealed by insiders and investigators, is far more shocking, complex, and destructive than any scripted drama could ever be.
Bombshell, and I think certainly it's true in this case. Meghan, Harry and the War Between the Windsors is indeed the title. How toxic do you believe the entire relationship is at this point?
Well, I think it's very toxic. I think they do their best, the Windsors, Prince Charles, the Queen, with Harry's memoir about to come out. But ever since Meghan left Britain and then did the Oprah Winfrey interview, it's been really poisonous.
Well, before writing the book and researching the book, what camp were you in? Did you love the royal family? Did you respect Harry and Meghan? Or were you just fairly neutral? How did you approach?
Before Meghan Markle ever set foot in Kensington Palace, she was an exceptionally ambitious actress, navigating the cutthroat social and professional ladders of Hollywood. Insiders reveal she was never content with her role on the cable TV show Suits. She ran a lifestyle blog, The Tig, where she meticulously curated an image of a sophisticated humanitarian, a global citizen, and an influential tastemaker. Her social media was a masterclass in personal branding, designed not just to engage fans, but to attract powerful connections. Royal author Tom Bower alleges that Meghan had obsessively studied the life of Princess Diana, not merely for inspiration, but as a strategic blueprint for how to command the global stage and weaponize public sympathy. When she finally entered the royal fold, she didn't leave that hyper-ambitious strategic mindset behind. She brought the entire Hollywood playbook with her. This wasn't just a romance, it was the role of a lifetime, and she was reportedly determined to be the star, director, and producer of her own royal destiny, no matter who stood in her way.
I didn't really begin thinking about Meghan other than interest until the Oprah Winfrey interview.
So it was that interview
that what sparked it. I thought that was just such a disgrace.
Don't think for a moment that she's not convincing quite a lot of people, especially in America and in Africa and the Caribbean and elsewhere, that somehow she was thrown to the wolves. Of course, that's completely untrue, because she had all the time Scotland Yard protecting her, and all the time.
One of the first major signs of that impending collision exploded behind palace walls in a now infamous incident that has been grimly dubbed Tearagate. In the tense run-up to the royal wedding, Meghan had her heart set on a specific emerald tiara from the Queen's priceless private collection. When palace staff and the Queen's fiercely loyal dresser and confidant, Angela Kelly, gently informed her that protocol and security concerns surrounding the tiara's origins made her first choice impossible, the situation allegedly escalated into a full-blown confrontation. A furious Prince Harry is said to have stormed in, fiercely telling senior courtiers in a raised voice, "What Meghan wants, Meghan gets." The conflict grew so tense and was seen as so disrespectful that the Queen herself had to personally intervene. She summoned Harry for a private dressing down, firmly reminding her grandson of the monarchy's unbending hierarchy and protocol. It was a shocking display of entitlement that sent tremors through the palace, revealing a deep and fundamental clash between Meghan's assertive Hollywood-style demands and the ancient, unyielding traditions of the crown. This single, tense standoff over a piece of jewelry was a dark and prophetic omen of the much larger, more destructive war to come.
People speaking on her behalf. So it's a complete lie that she's perpetuating. But I do think they're convincing. I think that people will believe this confection produced by Hollywood. But the point that I really think is important to put to them is, and to Hollywood and to Netflix, for creating this farage of lies, not prepared to tell the truth on their behalf. I mean, it's complete fiction. It's worse than a fiction. It's actually damaging and corrosive. Because in that case you mentioned, which Meghan brought in London against the tabloids, it's quite clear that her staff in Buckingham Palace were doing everything.
Soon enough, the hushed whispers among courtiers about Meghan's demanding behavior turned into a deafening roar that the palace could no longer contain. Experienced and deeply loyal aides who had served the royal family with unwavering dedication for years began resigning one after another at an alarming and unprecedented rate. Her personal assistant Melissa Tuabti quit in tears after just 6 months, later signing a strict non-disclosure agreement. Samantha Cohen, a tough and respected veteran palace aide from Australia who was personally asked by the Queen to guide Meghan through her transition into royal life, also resigned after what was described as a stressful and difficult tenure. The situation grew so dire that the couple's own communications secretary, Jason Knauf, took the extraordinary step of filing an official bullying complaint. In a leaked email that rocked the institution, Knauf detailed a toxic work environment, accusing Meghan of systematically bullying 2 personal assistants out of the household and undermining the confidence of a third. Staff members allegedly began calling themselves the Sussex Survivors Club. The palace, desperate to avoid a public relations catastrophe, launched an internal investigation but then took the controversial step of burying its findings, refusing to release the report. This secrecy only fueled suspicions, painting a damning picture of a leader who was not compassionate but corrosive.
In telling her own lies, that it was all a mystery to her. And that's what's so terrible, that the more she lies, the more credibility she's getting. And that's thanks to Netflix and the Hollywood producers. And Harry,
we are going to
is part of it.
We are going to hear who they are, as outlined in that trailer, 100%. And they've hunting of stories. And he is absolutely getting ready to say in this next 3 episodes that the palace and its staffers, courtiers, whatever, were planting negative stories on him and her. That's what she means, I think, clearly by they threw me to the wolves or they fed me to the wolves. By the way, it's the same thing. That they were going to be the dumping ground for
their dramatic exit from royal duties, which the press instantly dubbed Megxit, was masterfully sold to the world as a desperate escape from an oppressive institution and a racist, intrusive media. However, according to royal experts and insiders like Tom Bower and Valentine Lowe, it was a meticulously calculated business move that spectacularly and embarrassingly backfired. The Sussexes allegedly presented a detailed proposal at the 10th Sandringham Summit for a half-in, half-out model. They believed they could leave the UK, step back from their day-to-day duties, retain their coveted HRH titles and taxpayer-funded security, and be completely free to sign massive commercial deals with global giants like Netflix and Spotify. In their minds, they could monetize their royal status without any of the boring, restrictive, or unpaid responsibilities. They were reportedly stunned, blindsided, and utterly furious when the Queen, backed by Charles and William, called their bluff. In a swift and decisive move that showed the monarchy's iron will, she ruled that a hybrid commercialized royal role was unworkable. They were stripped of their official duties, Harry's honorary military appointments, and their royal patronages. It wasn't an escape from the system. It was a failed corporate negotiation to have their royal cake and eat it too. The dream was to become financially independent global celebrities on their own terms, but the cold reality was they had just been effectively fired by the firm.
So how is the palace likely to deal with that?
Well, it was great difficulty because, of course, they're lying. They themselves created the bad press by behaving so irrationally and so hypocritically. Like, for example, refusing to visit the Queen in Balmoral on the grounds that Archie was too young to fly. And the problem is that I don't think silence will silence them anymore by the Royal Palace. The Royal Palace is going to have to come out and give their version, because the only way the Sussexes can earn their living is by carrying on regurgitating their moans and complaints and lies.
With their plan B now in full vengeful effect, Meghan and Harry sat down with Oprah Winfrey for a primetime television special that would launch their new American brand and send nuclear shockwaves across the globe. They made a series of explosive, headline-grabbing accusations of racism, neglect, and unimaginable cruelty, painting themselves as helpless victims trapped in a gilded cage. But almost immediately, their meticulously crafted narrative began to unravel under basic scrutiny. Their emotional claim of a secret wedding 3 days before the real event was publicly and firmly refuted by the Archbishop of Canterbury himself, who clarified that the legally and spiritually binding ceremony was the one the world watched. This wasn't a simple misremembered detail, it was a foundational crack in their credibility. Then came the most damaging accusation that an unnamed senior royal had expressed concerns about how dark their unborn son Archie's skin might be. The claim was deliberately vague, designed for maximum inflammatory impact while being impossible to disprove. It was a nuclear bomb dropped on the family. Yet other claims, like Meghan's assertion that her passport had been confiscated, were contradicted by the simple fact of her numerous overseas holidays during that period. Their claim that Archie was denied a princely title due to his race was also misleading. Long-standing royal rules established by King George V meant he would only become a prince when his grandfather Charles became king. Each inconsistency chipped away at their story, suggesting a narrative built less on truth and more on strategic PR.
What do you make of the relationship now between these brothers? I heard you on with Dan Wootton on GB News saying Diana would be horrified at what her one son is doing to the other. Not to mention to King Charles now at the beginning of his reign. I mean, he's really trying to sabotage the whole thing from the look of it. What do you think?
That Oprah interview laid the essential groundwork for what has become the Sussex brand, a lucrative business model built on the relentless commercialization of their misery. Every public venture since, from their multi-million-dollar Netflix docuseries to Harry's spiteful ghost-written memoir Spare, has been built on a foundation of grievance and victimhood. In their Netflix series, they reenacted private moments for the camera, and Meghan even bizarrely mocked the royal protocol of curtsying to the late Queen, a move seen as deeply disrespectful. In Spare, Harry shared shockingly intimate and often petty details, from a violent physical fight with his brother William over Meghan, to complaining about his bedroom at a royal castle, and even a bizarre story about treating his frostbitten Todger with his late mother's favorite lip cream. He also drew widespread condemnation from the military community for boasting about killing 25 Taliban fighters, a breach of unwritten military conduct. Their Spotify deal fizzled out amidst claims they failed to produce enough content, leading one of the company's top executives to publicly label them King grifters. Their freedom narrative has been exposed as a brand strategy, turning their personal pain and private family conflicts into public content, all designed to keep them in the headlines and their multi-million-dollar lifestyle funded. The devastating fallout from their relentless media campaign has been catastrophic for their family relationships, leaving a chasm that most insiders believe can never be bridged. Prince William is said to be consumed by an incandescent sense of rage and betrayal, mourning the loss of the only person on earth who truly understood the unique pressures of his life and future. King Charles, at the very start of his reign, and while grieving both his parents, has been forced to endure a barrage of deeply personal and public attacks from his own son that threatened to destabilize the very institution he now leads. Even Kate Middleton was targeted. In Spare, Harry published private text messages between her and Meghan from a disagreement over bridesmaid dresses, a shocking breach of privacy designed to cast his sister-in-law in a negative light. They didn't just leave the family, they declared a scorched earth war on it, burning every last bridge with a ruthlessness that has horrified even their own one-time supporters. The carefully constructed Sussex brand, once built on a promising narrative of love, courage, and modernizing the monarchy, is now crumbling under the immense weight of facts, insider testimonies, and their own glaring inconsistencies. The fairy tale has completely dissolved, revealing a far darker and more unsettling story of relentless ambition, manipulation, and control. As panic reportedly sets in at their Montecito mansion, the couple is facing a terrifying new reality. With their credibility in tatters, their Hollywood alliances reportedly cooling, and the grifter label sticking, they are left with a critical question. What happens when the world finally gets tired of their story of grievance? What is left for them when the well of royal complaints runs dry, and you've traded your entire family for a brand that fewer and fewer people are willing to buy anymore? The price of their freedom is turning out to be their own legacy.